Audrey Macklin is a law professor at the University of Toronto and specialises in citizenship and migration. She joins us now. Audrey, thank you so much for your time. First of all, what's your reaction to the UK's decision to strip Jack Letts of his UK citizenship?
Well, think about this question. If Jack Letts is a threat to the national security of Britain because of his involvement with ISIS as a foreign fighter, in what way is he less of a national security threat to Canada? By the same token, by what standard could Jack Letts, born, raised, and formed by England, be properly considered more the responsibility of Canada, the sole responsibility of Canada, rather than the UK? So I think it's fair to say if your viewers could put themselves in the position of Canada, they might well wonder about both the ethics and the legality of the UK action.
Well, some who perhaps support the UK's decision might argue that they view citizenship as a privilege as opposed to a right, and that Canada doesn't have to repatriate Jack Letts. And in fact, Canada has said that it doesn't have an obligation to return any of their citizens.
Ultimately, a state has a legal obligation to admit its nationals. Sooner or later, it does. And this idea about citizenship being a privilege rather than a right, well, if it's a privilege for the UK, suddenly it becomes a right with respect to Canada. No country can legally make a citizen stateless. So if the UK thinks that it's a privilege for UK nationals, it can't also be a privilege for the other state of citizenship. That's the way it works.
There are some who might argue that the UK government has domestic support for this kind of action. What is the view in Canada of repatriating citizens who have fought with Islamic State?
Well, I'd invite your viewers to consider how it might look from the other side. If this is such a great policy, then I guess the UK would like to see every country in the world emulate it. So if Canada presently had the same policy as the UK, that is the ability to strip citizens of their nationality if they have another citizenship, I guess really what you'd see is the UK and Canada in a race to see who could strip Jack Letts' citizenship first. Hard to see how that advances global cooperation in the struggle against terrorism and radicalization. In fact, it just seems like a grubby parochial move.
It obviously is a complicated subject which many countries are grappling with, but I'm wondering what the view is in Canada amongst Canadian citizens. It's not that popular, is it, in Canada either, for repatriating people who have fought with Islamic State?
Well, of course, it's an issue. It's difficult. Nobody is crazy about the challenges that it poses, but that doesn't provide a justification for imposing the responsibility on some other state. Every state has a responsibility that it owes to its citizens that it can't simply disavow by, in effect, trying to dispose of them onto another state. So it's really a collective responsibility that every state has a responsibility to uphold.
All right, certainly a very difficult subject. Audrey Macklin with the University of Toronto, thank you so much for your time.